Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining us once again on Talk and Fight for another episode of the Boxing News Today, courtesy of our friends across the pond at boxing247.com. Leading off today's stories, we see that a Canadian, Ryan Rozicki, has been promoted into the top 10 rankings by the WBC. Three Lions Promotions is pleased to announce that WBC has decided to rank Ryan Bruiser Rozicki, who's 13-1-0 with 13 knockouts out of Sydney, Nova Scotia, as a top 10 cruiserweight. The decision is a direct result of Rozicki's gutsy performance against Oscar Rivas, who's now 28-1 with 19 knockouts, for the organization's inaugural Bridgerweight crown. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman, WBC Vice President Maur Betty, NABF President Dwayne Ford all supported the decision. Honestly, explained the managing director of TLP, Daniel Otter, it was like pulling teeth with the WBC committee. But they recognized the merit of Ryan's performance against Rivas. With little persistence, we were able to demonstrate that he deserves a top 10 ranking. I feel like he should be in the top 5 after that performance, but he'll show the world he belongs there soon enough. WBC Bridgerweight champion Oscar Rivas also weighed in on Rozicki's decision, his rating, telling the committee that after spending 12 rounds in a ring with the Canadian, he believes Rozicki should be ranked number 1 cruiserweight contender in the world. However, the WBC title is currently held by Lunga Makuba out of Democratic Republic of Congo. The question of Rozicki's ranking became increasingly intriguing following the news that the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, Saul Canelo Alvarez, is willing to face opposition up to and including cruiserweights. A match, therefore, between Alvarez and Makubo for the WBC Cruiserweight crown was announced at the same convention. Rozicki, by the way, returns to action on February 5th, 2022 in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Elsewhere, we see that Sonny Conto went up against Joel Caudle at the Live Casino Hotel in Philadelphia last weekend on the 18th of November. He got a test. Sonny Conto got a test for a couple of rounds, but he passed it with flying colors as he stopped Caudle in round 3 of the scheduled 6-round heavyweight bout in front of a capacity crowd. And it was the inaugural fight card, by the way, at the Live Casino Hotel in Philadelphia. Caudle stood in and landed some flush shots. Conto gave it as good as he received as he rocked Caudle several times over the first 2 rounds. In round 3, Caudle continued to stand in and wanted to trade with the bigger Conto, but Conto landed a huge right hand that sent Caudle to the deck, which made the pro-Conto crowd erupt in adulation. Caudle got to his feet, but it was wobbly, and referee Benji Estevez stopped the fight at the end of round 3. Conto, who's out of Philadelphia with an 8-0 record, 7 knockouts, and Caudle, out of Raleigh, North Carolina, is now 8-6-2. Certainly an entertaining contest, and elsewhere in the undercard, we saw that Christopher Burgos scored a mild upset by winning a 6-round unanimous decision over Gerardo Martinez. Good stuff out of Philly. Big news on the weekend, though, Demetrius Andrade going toe-to-toe against Jason Quigley. Demetrius Andrade delivered the explosive knockout win he promised as he destroyed Jason Quigley in just 2 rounds of the 5th defense of his WBO World Middleweight title at the SNHU Arena in Manchester, New Hampshire, which was shown live worldwide on DAZN. Andrade started with his customary fire with a blistering attack at the end of the first round, flooring a stunned Quigley, another challenger to hit the canvas at the start of an Andrade World Title defense. This time, though, Andrade would not let the fight go deep. With 2 more knockdowns, saw the referee save the Irishman from further punishment after 2 minutes 24 seconds of round 2. Andrade delivering the sort of thrilling display of power, spite and precision that he's been told to land the big fights he craved. I did what I said I would do. I looked good and I felt good, said Andrade. I delivered a message tonight. What's next and who's next? Good for him. On that same card, we saw Reis defeat a Canadian gal by the name of Jessica the Cobra Camara. With a filmic finish, Reis retained the WBA super lightweight belt against Jessica Camara. The bout took place at the Road to Undisputed at the SNHU Arena. This is the AndradeQuigley card down in New Hampshire. It was a tough, very tough fight between the two fighters who were competing for Cali's WBA championship and the vacant WBO title. Camara started the fight in a good way, putting the champion in trouble, but in the second half of the bout, she managed to bring out her ancestral warrior spirit. After the 10 rounds were completed, the judges decided on a split decision. 2 by 97-93 saw the American Reis win, while only 1 by 95-94 ruled in favor of Camara. Thus, the 140-pound WBA champion not only improved her record to 19 wins with 5 knockouts, 7 setbacks, and 1 draw, but she will also be the eventual contender of the Chantal Cameron for all the belts of the division in 2022. Congratulations to those young women. Elsewhere, we see in that same bill, Marajon Akhmadaliev versus Jose Velasquez. And we see that Akhmadaliev retained his WBA Super Bantamweight Super Championship with a good unanimous decision win over Jose Velasquez down in New Hampshire. The Uzbek got 109 scorecards from 3 judges and made the second defense of his belt against the brave Chilean challenger, who put up a good fight during the 12 rounds. MJ was able to take advantage of his reach and speed to make a fight at distance, but hitting hard both the face and the body of Velasquez. Changing angles was the key for the Monarch, who was able to strike and change positions to confuse his opponent. Here's victory number 10 for the champion, who has 7 knockouts and is undefeated. Pancora Velasquez dropped his record to 29 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws with 19 knockouts. Big fight news on the weekend. Terence Crawford stopped Sean Porter, and Crawford therefore remains the welterweight king. Down at the Michelob Ultra Arena at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas on the 20th of November, that's a Saturday night, the pound-for-pound king notched his career-defining victory. Terence Bud Crawford knocked out Showtime Sean Porter in the 10th round to retain his WBO Welterweight World Title in front of a sold-out crowd of 11,568 screaming people down in Las Vegas. Crawford is now 38-0, 29 knockouts, made the 5th defense of his title. He won back in June 2018 and was presented with the stiffest test of his illustrious career. Porter, who's 31-4 and 1 draw with 17 knockouts, was fought the very elite of this era, made things uncomfortable on the inside, and retired after the fight. I figured him out in round 1, Crawford said. I figured that I'd reach, and he had to take chances, and he did what he normally does. He tried to maul and push me back, but I used my angles and pushed him back at times as well. Sean Porter is a slick fighter. He was doing some things in there and made me think. I love him. Sean Porter's a real good friend of mine. I don't want to fight him. We always said we would fight each other when the time was right, and I guess the time was right for this fight to happen. I tried to fight the other champions of the division, and that didn't happen, so I went to the next best thing. Porter led 48-47 on all 3 scorecards after 5 rounds, but Crawford took control in the second half of the fight. After a dominant 9th round, Crawford scored a pair of knockdowns, and Porter's trainer and father, Kenny Porter, stopped the fight. Said Porter, he's the best out of everybody I've been in the ring with. The man hit with more than anybody I've been in the ring with, period. Good for Crawford, good for boxing, and on to our next story, again out of Philadelphia, this time out of the 2300 arena, where Atif Abulton went toe-to-toe against Brent Oran. Abulton stopped Oran in round 2 of a scheduled 6-rounder in the lightweight heavy division in front of a large audience at the 2300 arena, which was promoted by King's Promotions, by the way. Abulton was patient early and landed some power punches at the end of round 1. However, Abulton landed a hard left hand, and that was a precursor of things to come in round 2. He ramped up the offense and dropped Oran twice. The second knockdown hurt Oran, and the fight was stopped at 1 minute 38 seconds. Abulton of Philadelphia is making his hometown debut, and the heralded prospect is 4-0 with 4 knockouts. Oran out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, is 4-7. There are other details on that particular card. Go to boxing247.com for those details. Elsewhere, out of Dedham, Massachusetts, we see that Ray J. Bermudez went toe-to-toe against Danny Flores. Vertex Promotions closed its first season in style last night with its 4th event in less than 60 days. Fall Brawl at Mosley's on the Charles in Dedham, Massachusetts took place, and we feel very good about what we've done, especially considering what we just started promoting. Vertex promoter Dave Clark said, "Fans and fighters are enjoying what we're doing. We're making plans for next year, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We're in rhythm." Headliner Ray J, the Destroyer Bermudez, who's now 14-0 with 11 knockouts, outclassed his tough Mexican opponent, super lightweight Danny Vandano Flores, who's now 15-25 with 1 draw and 8 knockouts. Bermudez patiently fought his fight, setting up power punches and staying away from Flores' punches, comfortably and effortlessly moving in and out. A 3-punch combination buzzed Flores at the end of round 1, Bermudez nearly putting Flores away as the bell sounded. Bermudez continued to control the pace in the second, repeatedly whacking Flores, even though Flores tried to bait Bermudez into a brawl midway through the third. His request backfired as Bermudez pounded him with a steady diet of powerful lefts and rights. The accumulation of punches Flores ate eventually took its toll as Bermudez consistently ripped vicious punches to Flores' head and body, nearly ending the fight at the end of round 4. Flores somehow preserved, but it was only momentary as Bermudez pinned Flores to the rope and fired away in the next round. The beating didn't end as Flores asked for more, and Bermudez gladly obliged. In the end, Bermudez won a brutal 8-round unanimous decision, but Flores got kudos for lasting 6 hard rounds. Bermudez from Albany, New York, is the NBA Continental Junior Welterweight and ABF American West Super Lightweight champion. For more information on other bouts in that card, please go along to the Boxing 247 website. Elsewhere, down in Ecuador, we see that Arnold Gonzalez went toe-to-toe against Jose Luis Prieto. Arnold Gonzalez put on a thick line under his potential when he won the vacant UBO Intercontinental and South America titles on Saturday night, November 20th, in the city of Manta. It is ancestral home country of Ecuador. The 26-year-old Ecuadorian American impressively controlled and stopped former WBC regional titleist Jose Luis El Tigre Prieto in 5 rounds in the main event of a show promoted by Capital Box at the Coliseo Tojale. Gonzalez started the fight imposing his strength, forcing Prieto to the back foot. He boxed nicely to open up his opponent, mixing in hurtful punches to the body and head, while Prieto used his experience, blocking many of the shots and attempting to counter on the ropes. Rounds 4, 5 went much the same. Gonzalez going forward and Prieto remained defensive but dangerous in spurts. But when round 5 was about to start, Prieto claimed injury and disappointingly retired on his stool. Winning his first professional titles, Gonzalez improved his unblemished record to 9-0 with 5 knockouts. Prieto, who earlier this year had showed something to offer when he beat former Colombian champion Yuri Mendez, now drops to 28-11 with 18 knockouts. And other big news, down at Wembley this past weekend at the SSE Arena, we saw Richard Rakpor and Olaniwaju Duradola go toe-to-toe. And also Florian Marku and Yorick Lissetto, who we'll report on as well here. Marku extended his unbeaten record in front of thousands of his fellow Albanians, scoring a shutout victory over Yorick Lissetto in over 8 rounds. His partisan fans created a wall of noise as their man made his way to the ring and thereafter cheered his every move with equal gusto. Interesting. Lissetto gave Marku more problems than the Albanian king had perhaps been expecting, but as the fight rolled on, Marku was firmly in control, and by the 5th, he felt comfortable showboating. A finish eluded the Albanian, but not for lack of trying. He gave his fans what they come to see, and they'll turn up in equal force to follow his next step when he returns to boxer fight ring in 2022. As I said elsewhere, Richard Rakpor versus Olaniwaju Duradola for the WBC Silver Cruiserweight title. Rakpor stopped Duradola to secure the WBC Silver World Cruiserweight Championship and set himself up for a future world title fight. The undefeated power puncher delivered a statement performance by wiping out his experienced visitor inside 5 rounds. Rakpor is now the mandatory challenger to the WBC Cruiserweight Championship held by Lunga Makubu, provided Makubu retains that belt against Saul Canelo Alvarez. Duradola was literally on the back foot just 10 seconds into the fight when he looked to the referee in indignation after being shoved across the ring by Rakpor. The 44-fight veteran, who has faced world champions such as Marku and Reis, is known for having an iron chin. Duradola was wobbled more than once in the third and fourth rounds under siege from Rakpor. Knocked down by a left hook at the start of the fifth round, Duradola had just moments left. A follow-on barrage had the referee stepping in to end the fight. As the newly minted WBC Silver Cruiserweight title belt, which makes the mandatory challenger to full title once the fight between Marku and Canelo is done, and that's coming up in 2022, I believe. Dan Aziz is the new British light heavyweight champion following a 7th-round stoppage of the game. Again, on the undercard, some additional news for the British light heavyweight title. Evenly matched on paper, the fight paired the former British title holder and current English light heavyweight champion. Burton wanted to regain his former title, while Aziz was set on adding it to his collection and taking his career to the next level. Significantly, both had acknowledged pre-fight that this bout represented their last chance to secure a major career opportunity. Tyson Fury, the world heavyweight champion, was ringside to cheer his cousin Burton on, along with numerous other friends and cousins. It was not to be their kinsman night, though, as Aziz edged ahead early on the fight and was generally successful in shutting down Burton's plays to take control. Blood made an early appearance. Burton's nose opening up in the first round after some well-placed Aziz activity, and Aziz maintained his advantage by going to the body and working closely to negate Burton's height and reach advantage. Firmly in control and going into the sixth, Aziz was perhaps unlucky not to drop Burton with a leaping blow, which staggered him onto the ropes. But in the next round, Aziz sealed the deal, crashing a right cross through Burton's guard, then unloading a relentless barrage that prompted an excellent stoppage call from the referee. In a heavyweight bout, we saw Nick Campbell go toe-to-toe against Phil Williams. And Nick Campbell is on a mission to become the first ever Scotsman to win a British heavyweight title. And he took another step forward towards that historic goal in London when he stopped Phil Williams in just 3 rounds to maintain his undefeated record and add another explosive finish to his growing highlight reel. Campbell nearly had his men out there in just 90 seconds, dropping him halfway through the first round with a brutal flurry, but Williams was able to beat the count and grit things out a little longer. The end was inevitable, though, as it came into the third. Campbell's steady working of the body, drawing Williams' arms down, and a huge right hand found its home, and Williams went down, and this time stayed down. There's a lot more information on boxing247.com on the card, and I invite you to go visit their site and read on into that story. Because elsewhere, we see that at the AKO International Arena in Kiev, Ukraine, also on Saturday night, Talkin went toe-to-toe against Luis Concepcion. And Talkin came back in style and knocked out Concepcion in the 9th round to retain his WBA Flyweight Championship for the 5th time at the AKO International Arena in Kiev. The Azerbaijan-born Ukrainian made a perfect fight against his mandatory opponent and proved that he is still at the top of the 112-pound class despite the time he had been out of action. Different situations, including the pandemic, had not allowed Talkin to fight since last year, but inactivity was not a problem for the champ. The 34-year-old fighter walked the ring, used the distance very well, and annulled the Panamanian, who was quite aggressive and eager to snatch the crown but fell short. Talkin's patience in the first rounds allowed him to find the way to hurt Nika, and the key point was in the 5th round when he connected a combination that ended a left hook and sent the Central American to the canvas. Concepcion got up, was knocked down again by the champ, and although he recovered again, from that moment on, the fight was titled to one side. So Talkin remains undefeated in 21 fights, 15 of them won by knockout, while Concepcion dropped his record to 39 wins, 9 losses, and 28 knockouts. Over in Mescalero, New Mexico, at the Inn of the Mountain Gods Resort and Casino, we saw Marco Antonio Barrera versus Daniel Ponce de Leon. 2 Mexican boxing legends laced up their gloves for the final time on Saturday night as Hall of Famer Marco Antonio Barrera and former two-time world champion Daniel Ponce de Leon fought to the distance in an entertaining 6-round middleweight exhibition live on Fight and Gold Boy Fight Night on Facebook Watch. Barrera, who's 67-7 with 44 knockouts, returned to the ring for only his second time in more than a decade in Tapia Promotions' La Ultima Battalla, Last Stand, while his counterpart De Leon, who's 45-7 with 35 knockouts, made his first squared circle appearance in more than 7 years. Both fighters rewound the clock and looked sharp in a special attraction filled with nostalgia for boxing fans around the world. Barrera, who battled many of the sport's best fighters, including fellow International Boxing Hall of Famers Eric Morales 3 times, Johnny Tapia, and Juan Manuel Marquez, as well as the Sweet Science's lone 8-division world champion Manny Pacquiao, displayed many of the skills that made him ESPN's number 43 greatest fighter of all time. The southpaw slugging Ponce de Leon showed off his familiar awkward style that made him a matchup nightmare throughout his career. After 6 rounds of crowd-pleasing action, both fighters escaped unscathed and left the ring with their legendary status intact. And for other information on the bout, please go along to the boxing247.com website. Jesse McCaskill signs a long-term deal with Matchroom Boxing. Long overdue, I assume, but here's the news. Jesse McCaskill signed a long-term promotional deal with Matchroom Boxing and Eddie Hearn and will defend her undisputed welterweight title against Victoria Bustos at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas on Saturday, September 4th, which will be shown live worldwide on DAZN. McCaskill, who's 10-2 with 3 knockouts, successfully defended the welterweight straps that she ripped from Cecilia Brækhus in a rematch with the Norwegian in March in Dallas. Having handed Brækhus her first career defeat on the street in Tulsa, Oklahoma in August 2020. Caskilla became a 2-weight ruler against Brækhus, having previously been unified at super lightweight, having beaten WBC champ Erica Farias in October 2018, adding the WBA strap in 2019 against Ana Sanchez, and then successfully defended the belts in a rematch with Farias in October 2019. The Chicago Star now puts her 147-pound belts on the line against fellow 2-weight champion Bustos, and is the second attempt for the Argentine to become a 3-weight champion after she challenged Brækhus for the belts in November 2019. Said McCaskill, Matchroom gave me a shot on the big stage, and I want to finish my career with them. I'm excited. We've had a tough test in front of us in Victoria. We have a tough test in front of us in Victoria. She's a great fighter, and she's been with everyone, but I'm confident I will keep my belts, and we'll move on to more great fights in 2022. And I'm sure she will, joining a great stable out of Manchester. Well, and my final little story of the day, courtesy of our friends at Boxing 247, we see that Lyndon Arthur is going toe-to-toe against Anthony Yarde. This will be their second fight, being held at Copperbox Arena over in London on the 4th of December. Lyndon Arthur has warned Tunde Ajayi to zip his lip if he ever comes face-to-face with Pat Barrett when the cameras aren't rolling. King Arthur's trainer, Pat Barrett, and Ajayi, who handles arch-rival Anthony Yarde, had a hate-filled confrontation last month at a press conference to announce the big light heavyweight return clash. The fighting will be done for real when Mancunian Arthur risks his Commonwealth and WBO Intercontinental titles against Yarde at, as I said, London's Copperbox Arena on the 4th of December. It's a rematch of Arthur's split decision win against the Ilford knockout artist last December, and besides titles being on the line, the winner can look forward to a 2022 crack at the WBO World Champion, Joe Smith. The respect between the fighters is real, but there's little love between Ajayi and Barrett, who stormed out of the now infamous press conference that went viral. Arthur, who's now 30 years old, said, I haven't taken Tunde's road talk too seriously. The beef between Tunde and Pat is down to them. I still don't know if Pat was being serious or not, but for me, Tunde was entertaining for the public. It was fun for people to watch. One thing I wouldn't advise Tunde is to get on the wrong side of Pat somewhere that isn't public. Lyndon has hoped for a straight shot at Smith and then defend against Yarde, but the rematch clause means a great domestic clash over in the UK to round off a Queensbury card for 2021 when the stablemates meet again. And he closed out by saying, it's a case of getting this fight out of my way and then the world title next year. When I say that, I don't mean it's a fight I'm overlooking. It's huge because it's a win that brings me the world titles. Yarde and myself are fighters and just want to settle our business next month. I guess Yarde and myself are the same sort of people. When whatever I've met there hasn't any animosity. He's in my division and we have to fight. Perhaps when I win again, he can come up to Manchester and have a night out or something like that. Fair enough. All right, fight fans, thank you for joining me once again here on the Boxing News Today, our Monday to Friday news episode starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to receive notes into when we're coming up next. See you tomorrow.